going to be a long. Did he tell you how long it's going to be?
No.
Time allowed? Okay, then I shouldn't spoil that for you guys.
It's the whole class.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's going to be one class. It took us around 40 minutes to solve the TAs. So as you people who regularly come to the review sessions, as always, I try to come up with a really good algorithm thing to how to solve this thing. So we have actually 4 steps on solving. And if you follow these 4 steps, and we're going to solve this and do the feedbacks, like the checks if you did right or wrong, you'll definitely do this question right. So first, we go with depreciation and or loan amortization. So let's say you did depreciation, then you do loan amortization. Doesn't matter which order you do, because we're going to use those things in the net income and after-tax cash flow table, which I'll make a real simple table, which I think everyone should use that. It's very clear, understandable, and easy for us to grade, because this is a very complicated quiz. So, step 3, to evaluate the project, we're going to do net present worth. If they say do annual equivalency, we're going to do annual equivalency. If it says IRR, we're going to do IRR. And remember, all of those things give us the same result. It's either good or bad. And step 4, which is chapter 11, sensitivity analysis, which has a good question in the homework. I suggest you to solve that. It combines almost all of these stuff. It should be 11:16. And we're going to do that for this question too, which is, let's see, 10:30. Right. Okay, I don't know how I can keep this and this on at the same time. So, remember our first step is depreciation or loan amortization. Which one do you want to go with? Any? Depreciation. Let's go with depreciation. So, let's first read this very long statement. This company is considering buying something. The new system purchase price is $150,000. That's the first step. Our investment is $150,000. You should, when you're reading this question, you should write these things down, because you're going to use them. And this is a long sentence, paragraph, so just write them somewhere. Estimated useful and Macros class life of 5 years. Okay, so in some questions, the useful life and the Macros life can be different, as well as the loan amortization period. So it says the useful life is 5 years, right? So our study period will be 5 years. And in that 5 years, we're going to use the Macros 5 table. The question could have said we're going to use Macros 7, Macros 9, Macros 3. Doesn't matter. The study time is N is 5, Macros is for 5 years. And what we should know from that, because we're going with the depreciation. Right here. Yeah. So if you guys remember quiz 4, was it depreciation? Whichever. So depreciation, since we assume half year, depreciation of 5-year Macros will start from 1 and go to 6, right? Then this is another trick that we cannot forget. We're going to end at 6. And what was the assumption on that? Half year convention, right? So we're going to use the half of this thing. So now let's build up the table. Well, let me write these down. Rates 2, 19, 20, 11, 52, 11, 576. Okay. We said our investment is worth $150,000, right? And our Macros class is 5 years. The big N is 5 years. So let's start with the table. Rate, depreciation for that period, and book value. table should look something like this. You can also take its transpose, but I like using it this way because we are going to build the income statement and after-tax cash flow statement like this. The years will be at the top. Right. So rate, let's write them down. So book value for 0. And can some of you, one of you, remind me when I have 30 minutes left? Thank you. Okay, the rate is 0.2, 0.32, 0.192, 0.1152. And remember, we have half year, so 0.1152 divided by 2, right? Because we're not fully depreciating it. Okay, now, does all of you remember how we found the depreciation? If not, it's pretty simple. Just multiply it with the book value initially. Since we're doing macros, we always multiply the rate with the initial book value we have. So let me write those down. 150,000 times 0.2 is 30,000. And now our book value will be the previous one minus 30,000, so 120,000. And in the previous quiz, some people multiplied, when doing macros, multiplied this one with the rate. No, we don't do that. We always multiply it with this when doing macros. So 150,000 times 0.32 is 48,000. So 120 minus 48, 72. And 150 times 0.19 something. 72,000 minus 28,800. Almost there. Minus 27,52. 280. And since these rates are equal, we're just going to take the half of this. Divide by 2. That's like it saves you maybe 1 second, 2. So 43,200 minus 17, 280. 25, 920 minus 8,640, 17, 280. Okay. Some of you might ask, hey, why did we do the book value? We don't have it in the income statement or the cash flow statement. We do the book value because eventually we're going to sell this thing we bought. So the book value at the end of the study period will be compared to our salvage value. So it's always good to do this while you're making the depreciation schedule. So this is how we make depreciation schedule in 3 minutes. Everything clear? Perfect. So half of our step 1 is done. Now let's do the loan amortization. Let's see what we loan. Okay. So it says something enable company reduce annual savings will be equal to $95,000, right? We're going to use this on step 2. Now, the company has this tax rate, the initial investment. Okay, this might be maybe a tricky part. The initial investment will be financed with 40% equity and 60% debt. So the initial investment of $150,000, 40% of that comes from our pocket. That's what equity means. Like, this is the cool word to say pocket. So, and the 60%, we're gonna go to the bank and say, hey, I need this much money, and they're gonna give us a loan. And we'll go back to quiz 2 and do the loan amortization. Right? So, $150,000 times 0.6 will be equal to $90,000. So $90,000 we're gonna borrow from the bank. And it's going to be paid within, oh yeah. So this is another time period we should keep track of because it should explicitly said the loan amortization period. So it could have said we're going to pay this loan in 3 years, but the study period is 5 years. So we're going to do that differently. And remember, tax rate, loan repayment rate, and MARR are different, right? So it's good to write down those variables, no, parameters somewhere in the quiz, so you can just go back and use them whenever. So 12% in 5 years with 90,000. So in loan amortization, first we need the annual payments to find everything. And then, do you guys remember how to find annual payment? I'm assuming yes, but I'm going to go over it again. So initial times, since this is a present thing, we're going to make it annual, A of P, interest rate times N of loan. Loan repayment rates. Yeah. So we know our I, we know the loan repayment period, and we know the initial investment. So this will be 90,000 because we borrowed 90,000. We didn't borrow 150,000. 90,000 by AP, I will be equal to 12% over 5. So now we go to our super cool table and find what we're looking for. A of P, 12% of 5. Oh, here it is. 2774. So 90,000 times 2774 will be 24,966. So to this bank, every year for 5 years, we're going to pay $24,000, almost $25,000, right? And this payment has two components, the interest paid and the principal paid. And if you remember, those are all in different places in the after-tax cash flow statement and the income statement. So we're going to break them down and do our table. So the interest payment, principal payment, and ending balance. We need all of these. 0, 1, 2, 3. So 0 year, the initial year, no payment, and the ending balance is $90,000. Right. Let me write the small formulas for how to find these, so you can note them down. So interest payment for period N will be equal to ending balance N minus 1 times interest rate. This is from I1 to NL. Right? So let's put this small formula trick to use. So our ending balance of previous is $90,000. Our interest rate is 12%. So 90,000 times 0.12 will be equal to 10,800. Right? Now, let's go to the second part, principal payment. Principal payment of the end period will be equal to A, our annual payment, which is a fixed scalar, minus the interest paid of that N year. Well, N from 1 to right. This is why we need to find out the A. So now we have the A, now we have the IP, and this is aligned in a cool way, so you can just work your way from top to bottom always, and go like this. So our payment was 24,966, 24,966 minus the interest paid is 10,800, 14,166. Almost there. Bear with me. Ending balance of period N will be equal to ending balance of n minus 1 minus the principal for that n from 1 to L. Right? So the last step for year 1 is 90,000 minus this principal paid. 90,000 minus 14 something, which will be 75834. Right? And then we continue with the next one, the next one, the next one. So, I hope I can. Do you want me to calculate everything, or just write it down?
Write it down.
Thank you. Okay, let me see. The interest paid. Principal payment of 15,865.09, 17,769.08, 7,905. Okay, so first checkup here is you're gonna do this on your own. So you're going to go IP1, PP1, EB1, and then all the way to 5. So when you get to this point, you should have something equal to 0, approximately equal to 0. 1, 2, minus 3, I don't know, maybe 10. That's a bit too much. But something approximately equal to 0. If you don't get something approximately equal to 0, then you did something wrong. Right? So that's one way to check if we did this thing right. Any questions on loan amortization? If not, we're going to move to step 2, the big table. Okay. So, you all are allowed one piece of paper. What I would do, if I were you, is write down the table that I'm going to work with. What I would do is write down this table, revenue, and we're going to look at them one by one, and then cost, which includes depreciation, the interest paid, the operating cost, and then the taxable income, taxes, the tax rate, and then net income. This will be your income statement. This is it for income statement. Okay, let's move to, before we fill it out, let's write down the other part, which is the, this is income statement, which is the after-tax cash flow statement, or something called like that. Net income, the depreciation, the investment, borrowed funds, salvage, gain or loss tax, and then principal paid. That should be it. Right? So if you write this thing down, everything is just gonna flow. You're gonna put every number there, you're gonna do the calculations that you need to do. They're very simple to do, and then you're gonna get a full grade on this question, hopefully. Right? So let's start by the first component, the revenue. So revenue for our question is given as savings, right? Savings almost equal to revenue. They're essentially identical, right? So this is 95,000. But let's go for question. Okay, this one. And this is a good question. I suggest you solve this on your own. So here are the revenue. Can everyone see? Listening? Cool. Here the revenue is not explicitly given to us. We're given price per unit, the selling price. We're giving the demand, and we need to calculate the revenue on our own and the cost on our own. So what we do is, if it is given like this, price times the demand will be how much we earn, our revenue, right? So you can open up that revenue like that. And the cost, if not explicitly, if it's given like this, what variable cost means, which was in the question too, depending on the production, we're gonna have this much cost per unit. And since we're producing 20,000, which has a cost of 120, that will be our operating costs. That's the way, if it's given like that, we're gonna do that. But for our question, let's go back. It just says savings of $95,000. It doesn't talk about any costs. So we're going to assume the costs are in the savings. Like the savings were a total of $100,000, and then there was a cost of $5,000, and the net savings were $95,000. So we don't need to fill that out. But let's change the question so it's not repeating. We're going to make a cost of, tell me a number. I don't know.
8,000.
8,000. Let's go with 8,000. Okay. So our revenue, we're going to put this. Okay. So our revenue is given as $95,000. Do we have revenues in year 0? You all should know. No, we don't. Thank you for everyone nodding in this way. So $95,000. $95,000. $95,000. $95,000. And how do we know this is happening all the same? Because it says so. It says annual savings of $95,000. Right? If it says on year 1 we have 95, on year 2 we have 96, on year 3 we have 100,000, we're going to use that. Right? Cool. So cost. Oh, this is where the depreciation table comes in. Since we already did our depreciation table, we're just going to put it here. So first year we have 30,000. Second year we have 48,000. Third year 28,800. 17 to 80. 8,640. Right? Now, the interest paid. We already did that. Right? The interest paid right here. We're just going to put it in as you did in Excel, I think. And I'm going to not use the decimals for, I don't know. And then 2676, right? Okay. Is everyone clear on that? We're just filling it as we go. Starting from the top, checking if that occurred in that time, and just putting the numbers in. Right? Cool. And the last component, we said the operation cost, we said it's 8,000. Let's make it a more interesting. Let's say 8,000, and this increases like, I don't know, 5,000 every year. So 13,000, 18,000, 23,000, and 28,000, right? And assuming this is given to us, we just made that up. So now this is the part where we do the first calculations, not counting the depreciation and the loan amortization. So the taxable income will be equal to the revenue, which is a big plus. We like revenue, and we hate cost. Right? So we're going to do, for year one, $95,000 minus $30,000 minus 10,800 minus 8,000. So our taxable income will be 46,200. We're going to do this for everyone, every year. If it says 10 years, yeah, you're going to do it for 10 years. But we're going to do it for every year. So $95,000 minus 48 minus 9,100 minus 13,000. Is anyone else doing the calculations with me? Just to check. Yeah. Okay. $95,000 minus 8,640 minus 2,676 minus 1,000. Right. So now we're one step closer to our objective. We did taxable income. Now we move on to the next step, the tax. Our tax rate is given as, let's go back to remember. The tax rate is right here. It's another parameter we're going to use, 35%. We're going to use that when the taxes are involved. So taxes, 0.35. And this will be explicitly given to you, like tax is this, tax is that, so you don't have to worry about which bracket the company falls in. So it's just going to be taxable income times the tax rate will be the tax. So 46,200 times 0.35 will be equal to 16,770. And then, to make calculations easier and faster, net income will be equal to taxable, let's write it here, taxable income minus tax. Let's call this taxable income, and this is tax. Right? So 46,200 minus the answer we just found will be equal to 30,030. So let's do that for each and every one of them.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Thank you. Times 0.35, 8,715. So 24,900 minus the answer, 16,885. Let me do this hopefully fast. after some hardcore calculations, we found out our income statement. This is half of it. We're halfway done. No, more than halfway done, right? So we're more than halfway done, and we just need to fill out these remaining stuff and know what to do with it. So let's start with the top one, net income. So where does net income come from? Yep, we just found it. 30,000, 30, 16, 18, 5, 26, 6, 5, 3, 32, 27, 6, 36, 19, 4. Okay, depreciation. So this is the one that people usually forget, but how I like to think is, so when we're giving the income statement to the state, government, whoever is in charge, we say that, hey, this machine we bought lost this value, right? To get tax deductions. That's why accountants are so strong, right? And then our actual income, our actual cash flow does not happen like that. Like, we don't actually take out, I don't know, $30,000 out of that machine, pull it out, and give it to someone. So that money actually did not leave our pockets. And this after-tax cash flow is actually the real money that left our pockets or came into our pockets, right? So that's why we add back the depreciation in, because that didn't actually happen. Cool. Okay, let's write down depreciation. 30,000, 48,000, 28,800, 17, 8,604, right? Okay, the investment. So, the investment, when did our investment happen?
Year 0.
Year 0, thank you. So our investment only happened in year 0. And it might happen in another years, but that's beyond the scope of this course. So don't worry about that. It's always beyond year 0. And how much is our investment?
90,000.
I'm hearing different answers. So our investment is the worth of the machine. So the worth of the machine is $150,000, right? And this is one of the tricks that it comes to. The investment will be a negative value. So not to mistake everything, just write the investment as a negative value. You can write it as positive, but then you have to change your calculation accordingly. So this is how I actually solve these questions. 150,000 minus, right? Nothing. You don't have anything else. Okay, the borrowed funds. Borrowed funds means how much we want from the bank, how much we wanted from the bank. And it's, we said 60% of this was from the bank, so it's $90,000. Or if you forgot about it, we just did it in the first step, right? This will be equal. And since borrowed funds are actually a cash flow to our pocket, we're going to write it down as positive. Right? So $90,000. And we don't borrow anything else. Again, it can happen, but not in this course. It would be a very cruel question. Salvage value. Okay, so the salvage will happen at the end of the period. So we don't have anything until year 5. And at year 5, let's make up a salvage value. Value is this salvage. Let's make it 10,000. Since at the end of year 5, we sell that machinery and we receive $10,000, this is a positive thing, right? Because we got the money. So this is positive. Okay, gains or losses tax. Do you all remember how to calculate the gains losses? Yeah. So let's do it again. So the gains or losses comes from the book value of the investment we have. And we just did it, just to use it here. So the book value is 17,280, right? And let's do it here. So book value 5 is 17,280. Salvage value is 10,000. Right. So how I write this down in Excel and everywhere is minus salvage minus the book value times tax. Right? So this is going to give you the exactly the thing you're looking for to put in that cell right there. So there are two possibilities. Either this is positive or this is negative. If this is positive, which means that
you want the book value at 4 or at 5?
5.
So then why are you using the value from year 4?
Book value, this one? Was that?
I think I'm looking at depreciation. Never mind.
Okay. Depreciation? Yeah, right here. Oh yeah, they're the same. Yeah, that's a coincidence. Cool. Okay, let's move on. This is two ways it can happen. Salvage value is greater than book value, so we get a positive thing. So if you remember, if salvage is greater than the book value, it means we made a gain. We sold it more than its worth. So we need to pay taxes. So, and paying taxes means that we take the money out of our pocket. So this is positive, this is negative, and this is a positive number. We're going to get a negative number, and we're going to put it right there, and we're never going to touch it until we do the final calculation, right? And if it's the second case, we'll get a negative number, which means, like in this case, we sold it less than its worth, and then the government will be saying like, hey, you lost money, so I'm going to give you a tax deduction or whatever, how that works. So negative, negative, positive, we're going to put a positive number there. So in our case, we make a loss of 7,280, right? And the loss tax will be equal to 7,280 times 0.35. So 7,280. So this will be equal to 2,548. We're going to put that in. And now we don't have to worry about, if we use this, we don't have to worry about this being positive, negative. It's just going to give you the thing that you want to use. We're almost there. We just need the principal paid. Because the principal paid actually leaves our pocket, right? And we cannot show it as a cost because it's in the investment we made. So we're going to put it here. Principal paid. Since this is a cost, it's going to be negative. 14,16,6, 15865, 17,769, 19, 2, 22, 290. Okay, we're done. So now we need to do, still we're in step 2. Now we need to do the after-tax cash flow. If, and I hope you guys do it like this way, if you do it this way, you're just going to put these numbers in and sum it up. Just sum up everything. So start from year 0, minus 150, 90,000, minus 60,000. So let's do it for each. And if you don't write the negatives or positives, as we did here, you're going to have to do like, oh, I know this is a negative number, so this, yeah, just change it up. Whatever suits you. Okay, let's do it. 30,030 plus 30,000 minus 14,166, 45,864. So 16,180 plus 48,000 minus 15,865. 48,320. 26,653 minus 28,800. That's plus 28,800 minus 17,769. 37,684. 32 to plus 17,280 minus 19,92. 29,654. And then 10,000 plus 2,548 plus 8,640 plus 36,194 minus 222 90 35,092. Okay, are there any questions? Yes. From which part?
The last ATC.
Oh, ATCF. So if we write everything according to, like, no, this doesn't matter. This is a plus. If you write everything accordingly, we're just summing every number up, right? So minus 150,000 plus 9,000 plus 30,000 plus 30,000 minus 14,000. And it's going to give you the ATCF. Cool. Any other questions? Yes?
On your gains and losses, why do you only have the 2548 on the far right? You don't have any one more.
This one?
Yeah, why do you only have the one and then like years 1, 2, 3, and 4 are left blank?
Okay, that's a really good question. I appreciate that. So our gains or losses tax depends on the sale of this machinery. We already paid our taxes right here, right? We already paid our taxes. But at the end, since we but for the first time we sold this machinery, we're going to have to pay additional taxes. Those are income taxes. This is additional gains or losses tax, right? So we need to calculate that differently. And since this money is either leaving our pocket or the government is saying, hey, you lost money, as in our case, we're going to receive money. Right? So that's why we put it differently. And do not mix this one and this one up. Right? Any other questions? This is very important. This is essentially the quiz.
I get the principal paid again.
We get the principal paid again. So in our step 1, we did the loan amortization, right? So we have the annual payment, and this splits into the interest paid and the principal paid. Right? This will be equal to their summation. And using these formulas we write down, we get the principal payment for every year, starting from 1 to 5. And then at the end, we have approximately 0. So when going to this thing, we're just writing the IP wherever we see it. Oh, IP1. IP1, I wonder what it is. It's right here. Principal payment, 1, right here. And then we move on. Any other questions? Yes?
Say it wasn't paid off in the same amount of time that the Macker's cable, like, say it wasn't a 5-year, or say it was a 5-year we were paying off in like 10 years.
The loan?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good question. So if the loan does not match the study period, what do? So we change our loan amortizations table. Let's say the loan, okay, there can be 2 cases. The loan amortization is greater than the study period, or the loan amortization is less than the study period. Usually, the logical thing to do is either make it equal or make it shorter. Because imagine you bought a car, but you're going to use it for 5 years, but you take a loan for 10 years. That doesn't make sense, but it can happen. But if we do it like that, we're just going to change how we do the loan amortization. And let's say if this moves to 10 years, right? So what we will do is we're going to write up to 5. this ends here, the table ends here. We don't move to 10, we're just gonna write up to 5. If it is this thing, if it ends, let's say on year 3, we're just gonna write it up to year 3, because we don't have anything else to write down on the interest paid or the principal paid, right?
So that's just for the project.
Mm-hmm.
Use the half year for that.
So we only need to fill out the amortization table till the end of the project.
Yes. Yes, sir.
But for the quiz, the loan length should be the same, right? 'Cause
I mean, it will depend. It will say. It
Well,
should
will it-
explicitly say the loan time, the macros time, and the study time.
but do you expect it to be longer?
No.
Okay.
Not longer than the study time. No. I've never actually encountered that in my life, but I don't know, why not? It can happen, I guess. Yeah. What else? Any other questions? Okay, then I'm moving to step 3, which was the most boring step for me. Get the NPV, AE, or IRR. So, this is intentionally written this way because if we do it in this order, it will be very, very easy. But if you do it, hey, I want to get IRR first, and then I want to get NPV, and then AE, it will be harder. So I suggest you do it in this order, right? So for NPV, again, we're still working on the same table, right? And NPV is very easy to find. This is like quiz long material. We have a factor, and we have an NPV. All right. So factors, we're going to use this interest rate or something else. Something else, yeah. Because this interest rate is for loan amortization. The question should, I'm sorry for switching, someone was writing, sorry, I'll come back. Okay, so what does it say? Okay, so the question says the MARR is 20%, which are different rates. I've done this when I was solving this. I was like, hey, I'll use this, but I did wrong. So I don't want you to do wrong in the quiz because I can do wrong because I'm not a quiz. So yeah, so we're going to use 20%. Right here, right? We're going to take, since these are future values, we're going to move them into present because this is net present worth, right? So let's write down our factors. Year 0 is always 1. 8, 3, 3, 3, 6, 9, 4, 4, 0.5787, 0.848, 23, yeah, 0.4019, right? We're almost done. You got a question?
Yeah, it's like the thing inside the parentheses, you multiply with like the future value.
Yes.
Is this from the interest rate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready?
Cool. Yeah.
Okay, to get the MPV, what we do is just multiply these and add everything up. If we had Excel in quiz, it would be just say equals sum product this array times that array, right? But unfortunately we don't, so let's get on with it. Minus 60,000 plus 45,864 times 0.833 plus 4832 times. And I'm intentionally doing the calculations by hand to show you how much approximately time that you're gonna need in the quiz, right? Just to make it kind of similar. 684 times 5787 plus 29 654 times 4823 plus 35492 times 140. get 61,918.5. If I didn't do any calculations wrong, we get 61,918. Right. So, yes.
So we use 20% because the question is what does that percent represent?
That percent represents the
Time value limit?
yes, the time value of money bought for the company. Company says if the interest rates were, they take an assumption, they say that if this was the interest rate, what would happen to our earnings, right? That's the MARR. So, we now have net present worth. Any questions on net present worth? Okay. After net present worth, let's do annual equivalency. Oh, and what do we conclude from this net present worth? What can we say?
It's a good investment.
Thank you. It's a good investment. We make money. We like this. So annual equivalency will be net present worth times. Remember, annual equivalency was just annualizing the present worth. So we just annualize. And we're going to use 20% because this is the MIRR for 5 years. Let me write that down. And this is the end. Right? So again, we go back to our table. We found A of P for 5, 33, 44. So annual equivalency will be equal to times 0.3344. Okay. So we found this. Not a very boring part. Yeah, what did we say about annual equivalency? How can we conclude?
It's still a good investment.
It's still a good project. It's never going to change, just to go through it. Okay. I really don't want to find the IRR by hand. Let's not find the IRR by hand, right?
What if he asks for that? Can I just put that?
Yeah.
So if he does ask for it, we just try out different interest rates.
Okay, let's.
What's the just write the
Yeah, just write the
down.
equation.
Don't work it out.
I don't remember the equation. That's why I was like, okay, what we could do is, since 20% gave us a positive NPV, we're gonna make our factors smaller, right? Because if we make these numbers smaller, these positive values will decrease, and we will try to approach the zero. So what we can do is get a bigger interest. Let's go 50%. This is the biggest. Right? If this doesn't work, I don't know what to do. Okay, this is 0.6667, 0.4444, and 0.2963, 0.1975. This is 0.1470, right? Now we do the same thing again. We get a new NPV. But I'm gonna kind of cheat because I'm running out of time. I'm just gonna do it in Excel. Just this calculation, don't get me wrong. And it took us around like 55 minutes to get everything, including the annual equivalency. We still have sensitivity analysis, but I'm just gonna say what you need to do. Okay, while Excel is opening in this computer, we're going to do a small sensitivity analysis. So, it says here, let's assume this project is what we just did, right? So it says, suppose the company believes that all of its estimates except product life, depreciation, tax rate, and MAR are all accurate only within 20%. So everything we found is an interval now, right? So revenue, cost, which is the interest paid, which comes from the annual payment, the operation cost. The taxable income will adjust to that. The depreciation is the same, investment might change, the borrowed funds might change, the salvage might change, everything might change, right? So in this question, when you're hopefully solving it on your own, you're gonna have a best case and a worst case scenario. And let's walk through that, how it can be, right? So, revenue. Since revenue is a positive thing, in the best case scenario, this will increase, right? So I'm gonna write the best case scenario, what happens on the best case scenario with the arrows, right? So depreciation will stay the same. The interest payments will come from the annual payments, so we'll come back to that later. The operations, so since this is a negative thing, in the best case scenario, this will go down. And don't worry, you don't have to do this on the quiz because this is a lot of stuff. But just know how to do it, just know how it makes sense, how the variables react to each other, right? So the taxable income tax will stay the same, net income the same, blah, blah. The investment, this is something that could also change. In the best case scenario, do you think we invest more or less? Less. We invest less. We find a deal. We say, oh, this is cheap, and then we go buy that machine in the best case scenario. And in the best case scenario, our borrowed funds are more or less. Yeah, okay. It is less. You're right. It is less. Because if we borrow less money, we're going to pay less interest and less principal, which will actually affect this one and right here, this one. So the borrowed funds will be less. The salvage value will be more. Gains loss will just adjust. We can't actually change that. And this will decrease according to the borrowed funds.
So the sensitivity analysis is not on the quiz?
So it can be on the quiz. It is included in the quiz topics, but you will not be required to do all these calculations like you do in question whatever I just wrote.
Okay.
Concept.
Yeah, just know it by concept. And
Okay.
if you guys are up, I can show you how to do it in Excel because I'm almost out of time and I don't want to take everyone's time. Let's go for it. Why not? I hope the Excel is open. Okay.
For the worst case So for the worst case scenario, would you just flip everything?
Yes. For the worst case scenario, we just flip everything. Yeah. We pay more money, it costs more, we don't make a lot of revenue, blah blah.
Click ask me later.
And you all are free to go if you want to. We're just going to do some Excel exercises for a couple of minutes, 10, maybe 15.
Hit ask me later. That doesn't warn you that it's going to close it.
Yeah, I figured that. Okay, first we're going to find the IRR, right? So we wrote down our factors, and just to make the calculation simpler, 1, 0.666, 0.89.
That's the end. That was a lot of bad.
Let's wait for people to leave.
Thank you.
Okay, for the people who are staying with me, thank you. And now we're going to do the calculations in Excel. Sum product. This is just the dot product of two vectors for all you engineers. All of you are engineers, right? Yeah. So again, we get a positive net present worth. We need to get a bigger rate. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cheat because the table ends at 50%, as you can all see. I'm just going to cheat. I'm going to write the formula for this. Equals 1 divided by 1 plus this one. And I'm going to explain the formula when I write. Okay, so for all of you that are not familiar with Excel, what I just wrote down is 1 divided by 1 plus this cell A2, and why it has dollar signs is it's fixed, so it's not going to change places, right? And I'm going to write the MARR there. I'm going to find the IRR there. That will be my interest rate. And B1, the upper one, will just represent the time periods that I'm going to do. So since I didn't write anything there, it's just going to take it as 0, so it will just give me 1. But we're going to do 1, 2. And for people that don't want to enter by their hands, you can always use this, slide it off, and we're going to write, let's say, 56%, right? And since we wrote the formula once, we're just going to slide it, right? See how it changed everything? And because we use the dollar signs 2 times for A and the number, it's always going to fix that cell. It's always going to use that cell. So, and since this was a formula too, and we had these before, it's going to change. Oh, whoa, 56% didn't work. Let's go for 60%. Oh, it didn't work. Let's go 70. Well, it worked, but yeah, we overshoot. But a cool way to do it, and I think you have like a case study or something, right? A cool way to do it and how you should do it in real life is use what-if analysis. So we go to what-if analysis. This is in every Excel. We say goal C. What is our goal? We want to make the net present worth 0, right? To find the IRR. So we say this cell to be 0. It says set cell, that's our objective. We want to make that cell. And the objective that we're looking for is 0. By changing the MARR, which is our variable. This is by functions affecting this one, right? So we just say okay. Well, maybe not. Right, okay. We just say okay. 66%. Right? Don't let this value confuse you. Excel has a built-in tolerance level when finding objectives. Just roll with it because it's a very, very, very small number.
Number 11, bro. The very last section.
66.13%. That's how we find IRR in Excel. And you don't need to hand calculate this. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So for this one, if we were to do this by hand, that's the same thing as when we did the interpolation, right?
Yes.
So we did
Yes.
interpolate between
But
those.
since that's a long thing, you won't be required to do by hand.
Okay.
Yes.
Are we going to do the thing where we're looking at the graphs? The sensitivity graphs?
Yes. For sensitivity, you might be, how it's usually asked in quiz 5 is you're given some graphs, and I think all of you have access to previous quizzes. So you're usually given some graphs. You are required to read that, like know what to do with that. It's a, I wish I had a graph to show you. Oh, I think I do.
There's one in the homework.
It's one of the homeworks.
Walls or 11.
I think it was,
Oh yeah,
10.
there is.
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah. this okay. Let's see how to read the graph, because all of them are the same almost. Just the values change, and this question actually asks you to draw the graph. But let's know how to read. So on this axis we have the net present worth. On this axis we have the sales price, which is changing from 20 to 45. So let's say we sold it for $35, right? And what also changes is demand, right? From 1,000 units to 6,000 units. Let's say the demand is, pick something, I don't know.
2K?
Yeah, let's go for 2,000. And because since this is a two-dimensional array, we have one here, and we need to represent the other as a function, right? So we have the function here for 2K. We fixed that. So we're looking for 2K, and the sales price was, I think I said 35, right? So 35 happens right here, around $800,000. So this is how we read it. If we say, if the question says like, hey, you have sold 2,000 for 35, you're gonna say, what's the MPV? And you're gonna say, hey, it's close to $800,000. And another trick could be to use this to find the annual equivalency, right? Which is what we just did, right? Another example could be, let me try to draw a graph. How can we do that?
We should be getting 397,000.
I don't want to overshoot on this sensitivity thing. I think this is enough for sensitivity. And again, I really suggest you to solve this question. This has almost everything. Sensitivity, the after-tax cash flow for calculations, you know how to do it. Just, you can do it by Excel. Don't worry about that. And yeah, I think you guys should do really good tomorrow. Appreciate it.